I guess.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Cullen Strawn. I am the Executive Director for the Arts at Old Dominion University, also the director here at the Barron and Ellin Gordon Art Galleries on the campus of Old Dominion University. And we are in Norfolk, Virginia. Some of you have been able to join us today, which is wonderful in person. And then we're also live streaming this around the world. So like and share either now or later. And I'm just glad we can all be together. It's a really special time. It was great fun developing this exhibition with Matt Sesow's art. The exhibition is called Life and Limb, and it's on view through December 18th. So if you're passing through Virginia or Norfolk, come on down and take a look. There are over 400 visual elements in the show. It's kind of like no other show you've ever seen. There's 5.6 hours of music playing that Matt listens to in earbuds when he paints. We've got a magic box that you can interact with. There's all kinds of stuff. There are paintings made out of Norfolk coal. So it's really special, and it's been great fun working with Matt. Also want to introduce Dana Ellin, Matt's wife. Matt does his thing on the canvas, quick, fast, in a hurry. Dana's like this all day long with a tiny little paintbrush. And she's an amazing painter. Everybody, before the week is done, go to danaellen.com and check her out. And if you like cigars and you have a cigar box, she'll even paint on a cigar box for you. So Beth Ann Dickey and I cooked up this program idea. Earlier today, outside, we had a number of students and other folks come. Matt painted the crown. Somebody 3D'd it. And people made up their own personal symbolism, their own icons, building on what Matt is going to talk about tonight. Tonight's talk focuses on his personal symbolism and his icons and the world of meaning that he's created since he started painting in 1994. Matt experienced severe childhood trauma when he was 8 years old, playing with other kids innocently like a little bunny in Nebraska next to an airfield. And when it was Matt's turn in the game that they were playing, he ran in the opposite direction, met up with Mr. Airplane incoming. Propeller caught him, dragged him, knocked him out. He wakes up in the hospital, no arm. They reattach the arm, and he was left-handed, mind you, and his left arm came off, started to die below the elbow from gangrene. They had to amputate. So fortunately, they were able to do it below the elbow crook. So he has an opposable limb and can hang paint from it and use it in all kinds of ways. People ask him, how do you paint with one hand? And he's like, most people paint with one hand. So Matt doesn't at all consider himself a disabled artist, doesn't want to be portrayed as a disabled artist, but he has experienced, that severe trauma and didn't discover painting right away. He was doing computer programming and things with IBM, but once he discovered painting, he put his all into it. He's a self-described compulsive painter, and he gets itchy if we're talking on the phone and it's 11:59 because at 10:59 because at 11 a.m. starts painting every day. To this day, he's been doing this for almost 30 years, not quite, and he has produced more than 17,000 works of art, and he's sold them all. I think this entire show is sold out. Is that right? Almost? Okay. So any last takers, you better get on it. Anyway, I'll stop yakking, but just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank all the participants, especially Sterling Goulart over here. Sterling is the Assistant Director of Operations in the Barron and Ellin Gordon Art Galleries, and installing and lighting this show was no easy feat. He and I were in here day and night for so long, thinking that we would never get everything up. And he joked Matt Sesow has produced 17,000 works, and they're all in the show. So a lot of this is a labor of love, and you'll see not only the works of art that are installed on the walls, but you'll see Matt having painted and drawn all over the walls as well. So it's going to be sad to paint over those, but in any case, it gives me great pleasure. Please welcome Matt Sesow.
Yeah, thank you. All right, COVID's over. Wow, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Colin, Sterling, Beth Ann. So this is easily one of my top shows of all time. The work that Colin and Sterling have done to put this together has been amazing, and I was so happy that I had two major collectors, including Gordon's, which makes three, loan some paintings for this show, because I've had the experience in the past where I would be asked to do a show like this that is, show us what it was like to get hit by an airplane. And then now I'm 55. And to think about what it was like when I was 8 sometimes, and maybe the emotions I had, it's not very healthy. So I always said, Dan knows this about me, that, I don't want to go there anymore, because I think I've done so much of the painting about the pain when it really did hurt, and it was things I was, figuring out, and it just kind of came through the painting. It wasn't intentional at all when I first started. Colin said, I worked at IBM out of college, so I was 28 before I started painting. I'd worked at, I guess, 7 years at IBM before I even started painting, and it was kind of interesting today seeing at the student center how it looked like everybody was being very social and together, and I was really struck by the amount of people that came to participate in this today, because I think when I was your age in college, there was no way I would have even thought to, or even know to do this. So it's really neat that those kind of programs are available now, and I don't even know if then I would have known to do it, but it would have been interesting to have started earlier. Is what I guess I'm trying to say. So anyways, thank you for us doing this today. So like I said, I started in 1994, and it was just kind of the way I first looked at it was a way to, impress girls and try to be cool. I was really heavy into the great music of the time of I guess then it was 1994, so I can't say the 80s, but I really like punk rock and hardcore music, and that scene in Washington, D.C. was really cool. So what I did in the beginning was take that music and that feeling and try to put that into the painting. So I was working fast. So most of those songs are usually about 3 minutes long or 2 minutes long. So I kind of thought that I always wanted to be in a band, but I can't sing, and I don't think I can play an instrument. Maybe I could. I mean, nowadays you see one-handed people doing everything, so who knows? But so I was like, maybe I could be cool this way, and because I was just a computer nerd. And I was like, so do a 2-3 minutes, spend that on a painting, but make that painting kind of look like the music that I was listening to. And it seemed just like a joke at first. I didn't take myself seriously at all, of course, in the early years. So I would take what we have in DC is called the city paper, which had the lists of the bands and the bars who was coming through town and stuff. So they would have pictures every now and then, ads and stuff like that. So I would just try to paint the ads, listen to the music. Everybody around, we would do it at a table in a group house when I first started. People were drinking or smoking pot or whatever, but I would just be sitting there painting, maybe if, drinks, of course, but I didn't do other things. But what happened, I noticed that the art students that I knew, they did it, and they did wonderful work. It was beautiful, but, they were kind of like, yeah, let's go do something else now. But I wanted to stay and keep painting. And what happened was I realized I was painting about myself eventually. It wasn't music anymore. It would be like I'd be painting, a guy with one hand being defiant and, F you or whatever to whoever the painting was geared towards. So there was anger in my early paintings, and I wasn't very good. So I find with iconography, and I'll get into the icon thing, is a lot of times I was able to express things that only I knew. So I would do a painting, and it might be something really negative, like if the person knew that I was painting it about them, they'd probably be angry at me because they're like, I didn't know you thought of me that way. But I was like that. So I found that was a way to deal with it. Maybe if I was upset with somebody, I could actually paint them, and I painted out my aggression or my sadness, and that worked. And then so I started doing it with myself in a weird way. Like I would do paintings about the day I was hit by the airplane, or maybe I played football in high school, so maybe a coach would talk to me and say, "Oh, are you sure you want to play football? You got one hand." You know, that kind of stuff. Maybe you wouldn't hear those things nowadays as much, but it happens, and it made me angry. But I didn't know I was still angry about it, but apparently I was. So I painted it, and I would paint all these kind of scenes from childhood, scenes from high school that where I was maybe singled out or felt different. And going through the first 2 or 3 years of my painting life, and I didn't try to sell at all in 1994, 95. So what happened is I started to develop icons. So one of the first icons I ever used was, I had this surgery when I was 8 or 9, probably at the time. It was a later surgery, and they wanted to shorten the muscle in my arm so that I could bend my arm at my elbow, because when they first amputated it, I wasn't able to even bend my arm, which sucked. So, but that was a super painful surgery. It really turned out to be like something where I was at school and I could still feel like the pain from that, and like, you know, the needle in my butt from the surgery. And I was just like thinking about it while I was at school. I was like, oh, that really hurt, but I didn't want to tell anybody. So anyway, so that's what? Well, this, I'm just leading up. I'll lead up to it. Yeah, I'll get to the punchline. Yeah, and that, by the way, Dana Ellin, she is the right and left side of my brain. Right now, I'm just talking through my heart, but no. So, but she's awesome. And she's right. So anyway, so that was the first icon I ever used. It was a line with 3 dashes, and I used it today here at the top of the crown. And so that's what I call my trauma scar. And that's just kind of what I use as one of my main icons as a remembrance. It's just kind of a way to remember that I'm like, okay, you know, that happened. Leave it on the canvas. It's kind of the way I do it now. And another icon that I created with the trauma scar that relates to painting itself is called the trauma cup, which is that one down there. And I'll show you. That's all over the place in the exhibit. So we'll see that next. So yeah, Dana's right. So I did not a lot, but a few of my icons in the painting today. And I'm really, really super impressed with the students. They brought it. It was good. And the guy who took the crown. So first the crown, I did just the white part with some black outline, and he came in and like graffitied it. That's that guy right there. And I was like, no, that's right. That's exactly what it is. Like that's what graffiti is. And you take something and you're making it your own, and I love it. It's the right idea, and it's exactly very modern with what's gone on. It's what Basquiat did, who was the huge hero of mine that you'll see in the show as well. So anyways, okay, so 94, 95, just painting by myself or with friends, I guess occasionally, but I ended up, turning my little 500 square foot apartment into my painting studio. And then one day I was out. I thought I was going to be a filmmaker, so I was going to go shoot some film stuff on VHS or whatever, and edit it on the computer later and try to be cool. But that took a lot of work. Film's really hard. So on the way out to look at a place to go shoot some film, there was a festival in Georgetown, an art festival, and the person I was with kind of asked them if I could show some paintings there the next day. It was a 2-day event. And they said, sure. So I just set up in front of a small storefront with just like a blanket and some of my favorite paintings from like the last 2 years. Like, so I'd painted things like Malcolm X. I'd painted maybe, I'm trying to think of some ones that really did well. I think that's the one I remember. Maybe like me as a baby. I did like all these like kind of, weird, but I thought were weird paintings, but I had them in my personal collection. So anyways, I put these paintings out the next day and didn't sell anything all day. This was in Georgetown in 1996. And what happened was, as I was just getting ready to pack up and leave, because I was like thinking I suck and I'm the worst painter in the world, out of nowhere, here comes Beverly Kay. And she is this art agent from Connecticut. She was in town visiting her son, and Beverly said, "Oh my God, this work, you are a folk artist," or whatever, so, like, or outsider artist, or she really saw that what I was painting was my emotional response to something, which is a big part of folk art and outsider art. It's basically being self-taught. We're just driven to art because like we're like cavemen or cavewomen. We're painting the experiences we've gone through, trauma, etc. Anyways, Beverly became my agent for 10 years, helped introduce me to the Gordons. Here we are. Let's go look at the show. Yeah. But I just really want to make sure I give Beverly a shout out too, because she really helped me with my confidence and getting started in the art world. Okay, because otherwise this is going to take 5 hours if I go at this current pace. Okay, so this first piece here, this is what Colin had me do. This life and limb sign here, basically at the beginning of the show when I was doing show with Dana in Virginia Beach. So I came and I painted this little submural here. So what it just represents is me as the bunny with the little red trauma scar on the runway. This over here is a windsock. I guess I'm going to point to things with my arm. So just kind of imagine. So that's a windsock where the plane, knows which way. Up there's a plane coming in. There's a guardian angel. The ball represents a game of Spud we were playing. I called number 4 that day. Got hit by the airplane. Woke up in the hospital. So that's what this first painting is. It's called Runway Model. I think it's called Runway Model. And it's just me kind of getting all the attention that day because I was the little kid in Nebraska that got hit by an airplane. Kind of like how models on the runway are, and fashion are getting all the attention. And I guess the new fashion in that day was amputation. I don't know. That's a bad joke. All right. So over here, behind you over here, this is a set of UN stamps from the United Nations. They asked me to use one of my paintings for a UN stamp that celebrated people with disabilities in the arts. So Chuck Close was one of the other artists in this, and other international people, which I can't remember the names offhand, but it was a set of people with disabilities. I think I'm gonna look to Dan a lot, like 5 or 6. So this is one of my paintings called Dive Bomb, and it's a bunny. So it represents a bunny who would be an innocent person being the victim of a bombing in a war. So what I did there was took the bunny there, not being hit by an airplane, but actually getting hit by a bomb. So it was much more, current world affairs type things. And the UN loved it, or didn't love it, but thought it would be appropriate. So they used that. That went all around the world. Not available anymore, except for me. If you want one, let me know. Okay, so that was awesome. That was a big, huge feather in my cap. This is a painting of Baron and Ellin Gordon after a visit to their house when I had a show in Norfolk, I believe, and I'm going to have to look at the date, 2008. So back in 2008, it was one of the shows that I had here in Norfolk, and I can't remember which one it was. Probably with a gallery. Was it maybe Virginia Beach? There was a show. Anyways, they invited us, Dana and I, to their house on our way back to DC because we rented a car or whatever. And so Dana took that picture, and then I had sent this painting to the Gordons a few weeks later. And they had already been collecting my work since, I think, 1996 or 1997. And that's why I wanted to give Beverly Kay a shout out, because she was the one who introduced the Gordons to my work. It wasn't me. It was through Beverly, my agent in Connecticut, and the Gordons, of course, being huge collectors. Okay, so the next painting is. Should I just go through every painting, or how do we want to do this? Let's talk about icons. Yeah. I'm going a little. Okay. So one of the icons on Ellin's is the trauma scar, which because after getting to know her more, knowing her story, I think we all have what. Do earlies? Okay. All right. Let's start with the early work. So this one right here is from 1996. I think it's called Out of the Wheelchair and Into Rehab. I'm pretty sure. You didn't know me then, Dana. So this one was originally, I used a picture of Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. It was a picture of them hugging. And I did those, I know Dean Martin drank a lot, but it was kind of the idea of how I think sometimes I maybe dealt with some trauma through drinking, drinking while painting. So it's kind of like to put that kind of emotion into it. So that's kind of a, early trauma. And this is interesting too, because my signature on this one is before I started putting the W below the O. So this is a very old painting. So that the way it reads is like Sesow, so you probably wouldn't know how to pronounce my name. So what I did later is I moved the W down so people would say Sesow, which is the correct pronunciation. So the other ones will be like that. This is another early one here from '96, about the same time. This was just taken from a photograph that I found that was of, I guess, a general in Vietnam. Or I don't know if they have generals in Vietnam, but anyways, it was a military photo. So that would be, I want to, let's go icons. Let's do more icon-y stuff. This one here is called FFA. I did this the day before when George Bush said we're going to bomb Iraq. The next day, it was on March 18th, 2003. And growing up in Nebraska, we had the Future Farmers of America, which I'm sure you guys have here. And one of the icons I used here was I have this, it's going to be hard to do this, but anyways, it's a circle. It's kind of a trauma scar, but it's smoother on the outside. So what I want to kind of try to show there is that, I mean, it's not a very nice painting, but the idea is that maybe this person had been through, like normal trauma, but maybe the trauma that was coming was going to be a lot worse as he, served in the war. And of course here, this painting is what I call like a legend of a way to read a lot of my icons. So in here, I have everything from the Rising Phoenix, which is this one here on the upper left. That's the idea of a one-winged bird rising out of the ashes. It's very similar, I think, to maybe some Basquiat work there. So I don't remember if I copied it from this guy over here, but it to me looks similar to something he might have done. And then you could read a lot of the other icons on here, but there's like the bull, the represents just to be brave and be strong. Don't be afraid. The trauma cup, again, this is like probably the most significant icon for me, and that's the one that represents the idea of using painting as your place to control all your anger and all your trauma. Keep it in a cup, don't let it spill out. I guess Tempest in a teapot type thing. And I did mention this one before in the last time I gave a tour, but it's this blue one down here, and I think it's called Self-Portrait in Santa Ana. But I was in the Peace Corps in I guess 1998, 99, and it was really hard, and I was all alone, and that was a very I think I was pretty sad. So that to me is one of like a classical painting where it just kind of really expresses sadness. Over here is the Basquiat paintings, the 13 paintings of Basquiat, and the story behind. This just floors me that I can actually stand this close to this stuff. It blows me away. I don't know if I'll ever show again after this, but so what happened was like I said, been painting 94, 95, 96. I think the Basquiat film, the major Hollywood film, came out in 97 or 98. And I decided to go see it because I had heard of the artist, but I didn't know his art. I didn't know what he had been doing. But there was this great movie came out with like David Bowie and a bunch of other great folk. And one of the scenes in the film is where a gallery owner or agent is flipping through his paintings that he has like on paper in his studio apartment or whatever, or with his girlfriend. And she's just flipping through and she's going, "Oh my God, these are great. I love them. I love them." And the thing is like Basquiat was kind of in the other room, kind of listening. And it was his girlfriend kind of directing the agent to his work. Like it's that shyness about, I hate my work. It's crap. And do you really like it? And when I saw that scene, I was like, oh I can do this. I really can do this. Cause I saw a lot of similarity. The quick painting execution to me is very, like I said, 3 minutes. I mean, of course I work longer than 3 minutes on some things, but it is that like quick. I'm sure these are done very quickly, a lot of them. And the fact that he would go and sell the smaller works for, $20, $40 or whatever, that's something I picked up from that movie alone. And that's where these smaller pieces are from. Like I've said, I've done thousands of those, and that's a way for average art collectors to start collecting art for very little money. and I've had paintings that small in museums, and you can see. I've seen one of my cicada paintings recently on eBay. It was a small one, and I think it was like $300. Somebody's asking. So, not that I would ever pay that. If you want me to do a cicada painting, just ask. I'll do one for you, and I'll probably charge you $40. So, but anyways, but it is that kind of interest in art, and get everybody going on it, making it available. Anyways, you can see also Basquiat used a lot of icons, and the reason for some of these being selected for this show was he has something that looks like the trauma scar there on the chest there, which is very, very similar to the one of Baron and Ellin Gordon, which I'd never seen this painting before, but that's pretty cool. And he has it again here too. And I think what he's representing there is like a rib cage or maybe a spine. So anyways, that's Basquiat, who is awesome. So icons, what else have I done? I think that the main thing too is, as I've been painting, is I've realized what's been successful. Let's say like I do a painting of a cat or a dog and it sells. So in order to pay my bills, which this is how I do pay all my bills, is from selling paintings now, is I'll do a lot of repeats of the hits. So I'll do like another cat, another dog. Now that can only last so long before you get really bored of it in painting. So a super important thing that I've discovered is travel. So what you can do is, as an artist, as you travel, is you bring a little kit, you bring maybe pad of paper, some pencils, some acrylics, and as you travel, you create art, but you create new icons as well. So here's a couple. This one right here was one that I did when Dan and I went to Morocco. The icon that I use here is hi Gordon, is the arch that you see. Is there a name for that? No. But in a lot of the doorways, that arch that you see in Morocco. This is Bulgaria. I did a stint with Geek Core in Bulgaria in 2004, and that was with IBM. Kind of from that experience, I was helping software testing with companies. It was so far from what I do now. But anyways, so this is just like from some saints that I had seen in one of the churches using the Cyrillic writing. So that's how you can identify that. And then with a lot of things as on my signatures, this is one I did in Barcelona right here. It says Angel. I actually did that while Dana had a show, and I was in the bed of the hotel room drawing and painting that, and next to my signature you can see there's a little drawing of a bull. So everything, my bull painting or my bull character came from one of my first shows that I had in Europe. It was a solo in Barcelona, and I had the crazy idea that I would just get to Barcelona a week before my solo show opened, and I would paint everything on the spot. So they gave me a little apartment, like a little room. It was really super tiny, about the size of that canvas back there. And I created, I don't know, maybe probably like 50 or 60 paintings in that little room. But the problem was, before I did that, I was very nervous, and I was kind of thinking, what the heck did I just sign up for? So I kind of walked around a lot, realized that Picasso, being from Spain, or a lot of his paintings from Spain, he did a lot of the bullfighting or a lot of the bull-related stuff. So I created this bull icon for myself to kind of give myself confidence, and you can do it, keep working. So anyways, that's kind of a long story on that one. Here's another one, like the orange eyes. This is a statue of Saddam Hussein. The day they took the statue down in the Iraq War, it was April 9th, 2003. I used to, when I first started painting, I would use orange and blue to represent balance or unbalance. So orange usually was unbalanced, but usually they have a little blue in there too, which means, like blue is innocence, orange might be evil. So it doesn't, because if you look at some of these, like here's Jesus on the cross, and he has a trauma scar. Oh, I just see this right there where he was stabbed. I guess, isn't that the idea on the cross? And he has orange eyes, and I wouldn't say that we would think of Jesus as being evil. So I think, sometimes I do it for color balance to make the whole painting. Sometimes orange is just orange. Sometimes blue is just blue. I don't necessarily, I'm not trying to make statements sometimes with colors. I just like the way I can have almost every color in the rainbow in a painting, or at least all the primaries. Here's another icon, the guardian angel. The story there is, close to death. Did a guardian angel come save me on that runway? The story also that I tell is that when I woke up in the hospital, they had me all pumped up with morphine. I was 8, and I had this, I don't know if it was a vision or it was a nurse or it was a guardian angel, but I had the question asked to myself in my head, do you want to just die, go to heaven, or do you want to fight and live an interesting life? So that is what I chose, the interesting life, fighting, and thus I continue. But so that's the guardian angel. And then the other idea of the guardian angel too was I led to the runway? Not so much was I, oh, we saved you. It's more like, oh, you're here, Matt. Why don't you go walk out on that runway and get hit by that airplane so you can have an interesting life? Yeah, what's that? Hold my beer. Yeah, I'm not at 8. Yes, very good, Dana. So okay, and then this one has, I guess, quite a few icons in it. I did this one in Costa Rica, very tall painting. I painted it over a month-long period. I was there for a residency, and I did a bunch of smaller paintings on paper while I did this. But this was called "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands with Entangled Ants." It represents Uncle Sam, kind of holding up Jesus as almost a puppet to kind of lead people, the workers, to keep generating electricity, to help bring electricity to this rich palatial house that I was staying at in the hills of Costa Rica to do paintings. Because where I was staying, it was very nice, very wealthy, and in the mornings I would go down either to what was called Liquor Villa, or the grocery stores, or the farmers were selling things. But it was very, it was poorer. It was very, obviously very economically separated between the people who lived in the hills and those who did all the work in the village. So, and also at the time, I think I was into quantum physics, which is the idea of entanglement, and I think how we're all kind of built from the same stuff. I can't talk about it very intelligently, so I'll try not to, or won't try to. So here's more icons. This is a trauma scar on this guy. Pretty much wherever you're going to see amputation in a character, they're going to have a little scar where the pain happened, where things were removed. Another interesting thing about this one is a lot of times when I run out of space on a canvas, Dana's laughing, is I'm like, I can't get that leg in, so I'll just cut it off, or a hand. Yeah, it's a lot of things I'll paint with people. They're missing an arm or leg, maybe not so much because they're, disabled, maybe just because I'm lazy. It's hard to paint hands, okay? It's in their feet. So anyways, yeah. And that's the saying, art saying is, it'll cost you an arm and a leg. And apparently that is real from the olden days, that if you want your arms and legs in it, it'll cost you more for the painting, a commission. Yeah. Okay, let's look for some more icons. So here's another one, just a painting called, a small one, Another Drink. And there's the icon of kind of like this devilish, banshee-like character coaxing me maybe to have another drink. There's like a bunny in a bottle. The idea is the bottle contains the innocence. Let's just keep it there. Yeah. So let's see. What are some more fun icons? This was a painting I did. I think rather than talk about icons in this part, one of the things I think that is most important, if anyone in here is wanting to do this for a career in the future, is to be unexpected and to really push yourself to try to do something impossible. Like if Cullen calls you up or texts you and says, "Hey Matt, why don't you draw like 250 of your little icons on the walls?" And I say, "Sure, Cullen." So anyways, you got to do things that are challenging. So that's about how many icons are on the wall here that I drew. But anyways, I did a project starting in 2003 called 31 Days in July. Dana Ellin did it as well. What we did was we would take the news of the morning in July, every day in July, so 31 days, and we would do a painting inspired by the news of the day. Usually, at the beginning, it was the top of the Washington Post because we still had print media back then. And anyways, this is one after a suicide bomber in Morocco. This was called See Something, Say Something, and this was done in 2012. So anyways, the challenge that we gave ourselves is to do these 10 I'm sorry, 31 paintings in July. I did all 310 of the series are this size. So every day, what's that? Oh, 10 years. Yeah, we did it for 10 years. I had a 500 square foot apartments that I slept in and painted in. And so I'd have to come up with the space for 31 of these things. And anytime, if you use oil paint takes like, weeks to dry. So I would be managing 31 paintings simultaneous. Anyway, so that was a really, really challenging project. And I just dreaded doing it every year. But then at the end, I always felt so good. So it's probably like, I would imagine running a marathon, how those people feel. Okay, so another thing about travel with icons is when you travel, do something that actually refers to where you're staying. This is a painting I did here in Norfolk over at the, used to be Jimmy John's down the street. ODU was able to get me a space there to paint for a week. And I was able to do ship here. I think I called it Clipper Ship, which is, I just wanted to do something that referenced shipping or nautical things. Every painting I did here in Norfolk has a little anchor icon on it. So that's my Norfolk icon that I use. Up here is a phoenix going to the side. And so that's so if the phoenix is going up in the air, that means things are going awesome, great, like unexpectedly well, like I'm able to fly with one wing. When I put them that way to the side, that means kind of like, steady sail the ship, like don't do anything drastic, just, keep moving. Because this was one of the first paintings I did here, and I knew I needed to fill about this much space in this corner here. So that was one of the first ones here. Here's the mermaid, the Norfolk mermaid. I did that here as well. And it's been a really successful image for me. I'd actually done mermaids from Norfolk before. I think there was an Art in the Windows exhibit here about 10 years ago or so, and I had one of my mermaids in a window in Norfolk. And then this was one that an idea Colin gave me. He took me to see container ships out as we went to visit the Gordons in Williamsburg one day, and the color and the color of all the different containers and stuff, I thought it really made for a great abstract, and I called it Precious Cargo, so it has bunnies on it, so kind of keeping it very upbeat and positive with the rising phoenix there. And the one above it is the USS Wisconsin. That's right? Yeah, I don't want to get that wrong. From the water, and then there was a photo that I just, when I'd searched it online, there was a woman, a model in a red dress, and I amputated her left hand, so I made it kind of self-portrait-y of me for my visit to Norfolk as a lady in a red dress. Okay, then here is one, smooth sailing, I think I called it. Yeah, it's captain of the ship, smooth sailing, things are going great. Once again, the Phoenix is going to the side. Another thing you're going to notice in pretty much all my paintings is the lips and the teeth. The red lips is I always represent that with what is cadmium red light. So if you ever want secrets to some of my materials, I'm happy to share those. So that's really the brightest of the reds for me. And I usually use about 5 or 6 shades of red before I get to that final layer. So it's always that last layer that's so important. And I have the black, the white, the red, and I just like the way they really lay on each other, next to each other. And that was something I came up with when I first started painting back in the 90s, because I was kind of like the Soviets were still, or wait, was that just over? But I had a lot of that, the Soviet Union Cold War influence growing up with music and things, and a lot of the flyers and albums would have and Kraftwerk would be an example. They weren't punk though, but there would be a lot of use of red, black, and white, and I just really liked how strong that came off. Not that it was a positive thing, but it was kind of scary, I thought. So I thought that would give maybe my paintings a little more intensity using that. And then when I circle things in red, a lot of times that's just to draw attention with the eye. You'll see that in this painting too. So this is one here that I did about the Underground Railroad here in Norfolk. And the story was of George Latimer, who escaped through Norfolk to Pennsylvania and on a ship. And later, one of his children was Lewis Howard Latimer, and he was part of the patent invention of the light bulb. So bringing light to darkness idea, and just how amazing, like, and also he was involved with a few other inventions that I thought one was like some way to do like train toilets or something. I'm not sure. I need to look more at that one, but he was involved in a lot of inventions and just really super important historical significance. And then this is one, Attic's Theater inspired this one for Norfolk. Cullen was telling me about how Attic's Theater was very famous for a lot of jazz performances, and other really big names came through Norfolk, and thus Louis Armstrong. And there's my little bunny in the trauma cup kind of dancing along. So really cool. Happy to do that. Okay, now this is a super awesome story. When I was here in Norfolk painting at the Jimmy John's, talking to Cullen one day, we were talking about coal. He was telling me about coal and how important coal is to this area, and where a lot of the ships are coming to Norfolk in order to get the right mixture or formulas of coal in order to take to their country and make their version of steel. So with all the coal talk, I was like, wow, I've never painted with coal, but I bet that would work. Kind of thinking a little bit from the inspiration of Dubuffet, who painted with sand, I think. He was a folk artist. Or no, he wasn't a folk artist. He was actually a taught artist that painted like a self-taught artist. So anyways, I was like, Cullen, let's I want to go walk along the railroad tracks and find some coal and maybe paint with it. And Sterling was trying to help too, like maybe have some friends that might be able to find me some coal too. But lo and behold, there wasn't enough time to go search for coal. So what Cullen did is he was able to contact David Good of Norfolk Southern. Yeah, because we don't have a train. But anyway, it's Norfolk Southern, and he was able to get Cullen access to some real Norfolk coal. And then what Cullen did was overnight me a box of I don't know, 20 pounds of coal. So I had all this coal, but I had no way to process it or make it into fine paintable substance. So I bought a mortar pestle, and that's the one I used in order to do the paintings with the coal in them as the back. So there's the icon from the Norfolk Southern train, a canary in a coal mine representation, a portrait of David Good, and coal train with a just play on words there. So those were really fun to do. Never had tried it before, and it was very challenging. But I like a challenge. So I don't know. This is another challenge. This big painting here. I was asked by the opera company, or whatever they're called, of Raleigh, North Carolina, to do live painting while they did a performance of Don Giovanni in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I said, sure, why not? So I think it was like 4 or 5 days before the first performance. I had to create some backdrops for the opera. It was kind of like the Jimmy John situation. I had an abandoned storefront, and I was just painting on the floor. But what they also had me do was during the performance of Giovanni, which is like an opera, like with real people, talent, and everybody wearing ties and tuxedos, and so it was a real opera performance. I was on stage painting in my shorts and Dickie shorts and a t-shirt. So I did a bunch of paintings for that. And this is one of the paintings that Denise and Mike, who are collectors of mine here in Norfolk, I think they went to the show, or maybe they bought it after the show. But so thank goodness they have this one, because there's only about 10 of them out in the world, and luckily they have one of them here in Norfolk. So I was really happy to be able to include that. Does anyone have a question about anything? Really, anything's on the table. Yes. Uh-huh.
Some of your paintings, the mouths, you talked about the black and white. The mouths are really wide and beyond the faces.
Yeah. Okay, so the main reason I give for that is so that you can't tell whether they're smiling or yelling, happy, sad. So I let the viewer kind of bring that interpretation in. I think that's kind of maybe a cheap answer for me because I want to, be like, sound like an artist. But I think the real reason that I really extend them out so far is just because I think visually it brings something to the eye. There's just really something that I'm trying to balance all the time, and I just think it looks a lot cooler, and it's much more identifiable as one of my paintings when those lips just stretch all the way out. I did get the idea for the lips and teeth by I guess this might be an interesting story. When I first started painting, living in DC, I was able to go to the Smithsonian museums for free. So I would go down there with my Walkman back in the old days, listening on cassette, and I would sit on like a bench and look at the painting. So I would be so happy if somebody would just come in here, sit on this, listen to their favorite music and look at my paintings and try to figure out how I did it. So I was doing that with Francis Bacon paintings and William de Kooning. That was before I knew Basquiat. So what I was doing was I was looking at their mouths, like the women's series from de Kooning. No, yeah, de Kooning was women's series, and then Bacon did a lot of like motion in his work with like the dog running and things like that we have in DC. So I was trying to break that apart, and that's where I really got the mouth and lips originally was from that. So I mean, I do have an original thought in my head, but a lot of the things is you pull from your experiences, you pull from what you like. That's like today when you put the graffiti stuff on the crown. I'm like, yeah, do it. Like pull it, make it yours. Like that's what we have to do. And then when you find what works perfect, you do it a bunch of times. You do it do it a ton of times, and then eventually take it down to Georgetown, try to sell it. And if you can sell it, make money. I mean, really so much of this is healing for me and it's been really great, but I mean, every day I can't believe that I can do this for a living. Like I'm still shocked. So I'm really happy to answer any business questions too, because that's where I think I've really taken a different take on most art is I like to sell stuff really cheap. Like I think the Gordons, I don't even know if I sold that. I don't think I gave it to them. I think I sold it to them, but most everything in here, I didn't charge more than $800 or $900 for, like the big stuff. Like I don't even know what this was. That may not have even been over $800 or $900. I don't remember. So the idea is there's a lot of people selling art out there. There's a lot of people who are big time artists who are like, they just got out of college and they got their first solo show and they're going to charge, $30,000 for that because, they're the next Picasso. But the problem is if I charge $30,000 for that when I'm starting out, I'm going to have a lot of those sitting in my studio because not many people have $30,000. You learn that fast. So most people, if they want piece of art and they love it, they're going to be willing to spend $20. They're going to be willing to spend $40 for something small. So the biggest trick I found that's worked like magic is just realize that there's a lot of people in the same pool as you trying to sell their art and do their art. But if you can give the customer value for product, like value for their money, which is a term from The Clash, which is kind of funny because they charged a lot at the end. But the idea about punk rock shows in the early days was you'd pay $4 or $5 to see a band. You weren't paying $30, $40 to go see a show. You'd go to the bar, you'd pay, $8 maybe to see Minor Threat or something like that. And now, everybody loves Minor Threat, everybody loves Fugazi and that kind of thing. And it was just very cheap in the old days, but you were kind of part of you're part of it. So what I'm trying to do is get everybody, as many people as I can, as part of my we're all together on this. And this Basquiat showing my stuff now, I mean, that's just going to bring all of us who bought my work to, hey, maybe let's, so this is, hopefully this will be something in 20 or 30 years, and hopefully I'm still alive. Yeah.
The question I was going to ask is, you selling your paintings, so people can afford it, are you worried about running into things that the New York artists in the 80s ran into, where they have patrons that show up, and they'd be like, oh, we love that, we're going to give you a couple $100 for it, they turn around, take it to auction, and sell it for $15.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep. Yeah, they can do that. I'm completely fine if people want to do that with my work because I produce so much and I'm full of new ideas. So that would be, and I would love it if people do. I have people who, not to burn. But I mean, there are people who buy like 1 or 2 paintings a week from me now. And I know they're just collecting and they're trying to get the old stuff, because I do still have some old stuff that I make available, but I do charge more for the really old stuff because there's no way I can go back there. But you know, there's stuff like these Norfolk paintings. I'm not going to paint those again, but they're pretty much all sold. And then the fact that the show is so important to me, there's a lot of documentation about the show, I think is only going to, you know, raise that value or whatever. But yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Like if you want to buy one of my paintings and turn around and sell it, great. I don't do trades though. Sorry, I don't have enough room. I live in a very small place. Yeah, I've never done trades. Sorry, but you know, who knows? Yeah. Hey, we did a collaboration today, so there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's an important point. Yeah. So Dana was saying that the idea is, I think sometimes people do bank on that you're going to self-destruct, because my art does look very self-destructive, and there has been moments in my life before Dana where I think I was probably heading in a bad direction. I don't think I really had confidence in my work, and I didn't really have, you know, the only thing for me to do was to produce as much as possible without any regard for the future. I was just like, I know I can do this. I know I can make it. But, you know, if I make it through hurting myself, that might be okay because it'll be worth it. But now, wearing a nice shirt, buttoned up, I run every other day, all that good stuff. It's really, I think maybe my purpose isn't to just create a whole bunch of art that people like. Maybe I can help by telling a story that maybe my experiences can help someone who might have a similar situation where they have enough of a story in them to really tell a lot of good things on canvas that nobody else can do. Like they can to give a unique perspective and, you know, carry the torch and do it as long as possible without being so destructive. But, you know, another important thing, I mean, I won't lie, I always am trying to come up with unexpected things, and you know, it's challenging, and you gotta think outside the box so many times with this painting. So I don't know.
And if you're making enough money to be able to support yourself and, you know, live the life that you want, a lot of those artists, like, they're selling paintings so that they can eat.
Yes. Yep.
So they're barely, they're living in poverty barely, you know.
Yep.
They're seeing. So I mean that's a different.
Yeah. The definitely, like, what do you have? What can you afford? And I mean, I haven't had a car since 1997. You know, like things like that, like cutting back expenses. We're cheap. You know, we walk everywhere. No cable, that kind of thing. You know, iPhone 5s, what we use. I maybe used to use those, but so it is that idea, like budgeting, and the trick too is that if you're selling a big painting to somebody, and you're like, oh God, I hope they like it, or, you know, they're going to like it a lot more at $800 than $18,000. It's just the thing about really rich people is they love a bargain. Like that's the thing, they want one just as much as, you know, any of us. And I don't know, I've seen that a lot where people they start to kind of bid against each other. They're very competitive, like the people with the big money that can buy the $18,000 paintings. So anyways, I don't know. But yeah.
Question about the dates in this one, and it's over here too. They kind of, it looks like a rose. Is that on purpose?
Which part? The face?
Yeah, the face on the face. It's over here.
On the one that says scooter on it, or?
Yeah, with the pink and the white.
Yeah. Yeah, like a rose?
It's more for nuts over there. You can't tell it's a face.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't, that wasn't on purpose, but that's cool. That's cool you saw that. I like it. Yeah, those are, actually that painting back there, you're talking about the big one, the red background one?
No, I was talking about the one on the left of it, with the blue shirt.
Oh, the blue shirt. Yeah, that is just a really fast execution. I was looking at a famous painting, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, from the Smithsonian. Yeah, just a lot of times I'll just let the reds and everything mix together with the pinks, and I guess if it looks like a rose, yeah, awesome. Thanks. Yep.
Do you want to tell us about this big piece in the back?
Oh yeah, I can talk about the big piece in the back, and then I'll answer your guys' question. So this big one in the back, this was I'd worked. So this is another one of a play that it was actually the second play I did in California. This was somebody I knew who wrote plays and directed them in San Francisco, and I'd done a play with him a few years before. This was, I guess, 2008, so like probably 2006 or so. I did one in Hollywood, which was really cool. It was a play about Kinsey, can't remember his first name. Kinsey, the doctor from IU, the sex doctor or whatever. So it was a pretty rowdy play. But anyways, I'd done the backdrops for this play and slept on the floor to create the paintings a few days before the play opened. But this was a similar one. This was a play done in like I said, in San Francisco. He had contacted me a few days, maybe a week before it was going to go live, and he asked if I could do the backdrops for the play, and I said yes. And I read the play on the airplane, I think, to try to figure out what I was going to do, because I had no idea what it was about or anything. So this, I think, was called Fleeing the Roost, just about, I guess, childhood or birds fleeing the roost. But this one looks like mom might be fleeing the roost. So before the play opened, I created, I think it was like 4 about this size, and this one wasn't too bad because we have all of that negative space there, so I didn't have to fill the whole canvas. But I would pretty much watch them rehearse the play, and then after they would leave for the night, I would stay in the theater and do the paintings. So it was like sleep in the theater, paint in the theater, and then try to get some sleep, then do it for like 3 or 4 days leading up to the show. Just on the floor. So like it would be. Yeah, it was a friend of mine who contacted me, who was the director and writer of the play, and I'd done that with him for a previous play a few years before, where I would just kind of sleep on the floor and paint before the play opened, and then they hung them up like this, so the actors would be in front of the big canvas. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. And then when they would leave, because they were done, then I would stay, yeah, keep staying. So, yep. So, okay, Yeah, in a sense, I guess that would be the Phoenix, because it does have one wing. It's kind of like it's like a looks like a three-dimensional rising Phoenix almost, yeah. Yeah, I like the teeth. So, yeah, that's it. Yep. Yeah. There's been quite a few people that I've seen get tattoos of my art. There's actually a drummer in a really cool band out of DC has, I think, just a ton of tattoos of my paintings on his arm. He was in a couple bands, and they were using. I would like do CDs for so I would do album covers, for example. So an example of the marketing again and pricing. If I'm ever asked to do like a book or a CD cover for an album, or album cover would be great, I pretty much do it for free. Like the idea is you're just going to get a lot of new eyeballs that way, and then maybe I'll offer the person who wants it done a good price on the painting for the original. But yeah, so people have done have tattoos. There's one of the actors on The Walking Dead. She wasn't on like too much of it, but she was on one of it was like the all-female camp or whatever. Her name's Brianna Venska. She has like one of my rabbits on her arm, and it was really funny because she was doing a film coming up, and I had to sign a release that it was okay to show that on her arm. But yeah, so a lot of people get them. Some people don't even ask me. I'll just like see it on Instagram, and there might be like a bird or something of mine, and I'm like, that's cool. Just tag me. So, but yeah, I don't that kind of stuff I don't mind. And I think when I first was getting a lot of success, I was really, really angry or upset if people were doing direct copies of my work, and I was like, just give me some credit. But I think what's happened is I've matured more. Is I'm trying to be like a lot more like, it's out there, and I'm really glad it's out there. I mean, that's like if Bosca said, "Hey, Sesow, don't do your teeth like that or something like that. And I could see how that would be kind of rough because you're kind of trying to make your own way. And so anyways, that's kind of the way I look at it now. And like, especially with tattoos, like just, go for it. Yeah. So, yeah. Boats. Nope. The flamingo, yeah. So the flamingo, that is on a street banner. That was really funny because I remember when I did this painting, I hated it. Like I like put it. I don't know. I finished it, and I was like, oh, this is junk. And I posted it, and that was one that Denise and Mike bought here in Norfolk. I like it now, of course, Denise and Mike. But anyways, the reason I did a flamingo, obviously, is because it's so tall. Like it's on a banner, like a street banner. So if you look back here, you can see it was used for, it looks like a basketball tournament in Washington, D.C. at the Verizon Center, which is not even called the Verizon Center anymore. So what happened is Dana and I, we were contacted by one of our friends who worked for the downtown Washington, D.C. Business group, and they had a warehouse with all these old banners that they were just going to throw away, and they asked us if we wanted them to paint on, and we were like, of course, why not? Challenge. Well, yeah, I didn't even know if the paint would hold, and it still does, I guess. But and eventually, Dan and I ended up curating a show down by the White House where we invited our friends who we knew were painters to take banners and paint on them. So it was a pretty cool little show. I think there's a website of it out there somewhere, but who knows? But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So everybody had to paint on banners like this. Boats. No? Yeah. Yeah. No. I think I'm pulling, because I don't know, like Dana and I never talk about religion, which is pretty funny. I mean, in like what my beliefs would be or whatever. But I think what it is growing up in pretty, Nebraska, and everybody's pretty much Christian, and it's, religious. And I think what I found was, and I understand with people is when you experience something really tough, and to have like almost like a place to go where it kind of explains it, like through religion, like, so Christianity, an example, like with a lot of the stuff, there is like a, it's like, I guess the idea is moving your pain, like you can get through it. I like that kind of positivity of it. And I think that's what I'm picking up on. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily, religious, but I do appreciate what it does for people. And I'm sure it's helped me in some cases. So, yeah. Did I what?
Did you lay the painting down?
The tall one? Yeah, that was on the floor. I painted on the floor. So it probably has footprints all over it. I don't know if it does, but it probably does. Yeah, and that one's actually interesting, and I think Cullen pointed this out to me. The red on that is actually a little less vivid than other reds. I don't think I had my good tube of paint, or maybe I ran out of it before I could finish that one. So, anyways, that was my favorite painting for so many years, and it actually was hanging for many. I hung it in quite a few shows in Washington before it sold, and it was at a gym once. They had a show at a gym, like, because they had a really tall ceiling and they could show it. And I remember did they take it down, Dana, or they covered it? Yeah, they took it down because they thought it was offensive. I was like, all right. So, anyways, now it's like, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, I haven't talked about the magic box. Back here, Gordon is requesting we talk about the magic box. He just looks like Cullen, but his name is Gordon. So this is this awesome, incredible, and I haven't really played with this enough to know how to work it, but probably won't work with my arm. So in here are 3 little books that, when I first started dating Dana Ellin, this is becoming the Dana Ellin show. No, but when I first started dating Dana, for her birthday, I would write her little storybooks. And so these are 3 little books that I gave her on her birthday. It was like kind of a princess story. So the idea is like she's a princess called Stinky Peanut, and I'm the one-armed, or I don't think I called myself one-armed anything, but I was, I'm represented in there with a guy with one hand, and I'm the prince, and come to save the day, help her through her adversity. And the idea with those books was just, I guess, to try to impress her, make her think I was cool. So eventually she married me, which is awesome. So with this magic box, I guess, I really haven't, somebody else would, it won't work with my little arm here, but you can actually flip through the pages of the book, and I believe there's also so you could read the whole book that I wrote for Dan Ellin. Yeah, Vanna White. There's Vanna White. So there's, there.
I would do it, but I have no arms.
Yes, I know. You can. But you're doing well. We're very proud of you, Gordon. So cool. So you can zoom in and everything. So the magic box is a way you can look at the little books that I wrote for her, for Dan Ellin. And if you look back here, there's, I guess I call this the animal wall. Back here, if you look at these are a lot of what I call my hits. These are kind of some of the images that I've done over and over, like the bees, the bull, the guy riding the chicken over on the far right, a guy riding a donkey, the rabbits. The middle one is very influenced by Basquiat. I call those my Basquiat paintings because I think what Basquiat did so much was he would paint over pieces of the artwork that looked finished. You just kind of like you just throw a big swath of blue over something or whatever. He did a lot of writing on it too. So that one I called Life in Limb. I did that one for this show. That's kind of the wall of hits and animals. Anybody else? Anything else? Any other questions? Yes.
I guess the significance of the bunny.
Oh, okay. So the significance of the bunny is that when I was hit by the airplane, the idea was that you're just kind of this innocent creature hopping along, and you're basically attacked by a predator, a wolf, a plane. So the idea is that the rabbit isn't a predator; it's more of kind of like an innocence icon. And I've really found that it's something really, and it's just being honest, really easy and quick for me to always do a bunny really quick. I can boom, boom, so I can put them out there. So it's another way of signing my paintings too, so that when you see a painting, you're like, is that a Sesow? And if you see that, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that looks like one of Matt's bunnies, yeah. So it's just another way. Yeah. Oh, kitty litter. Yeah, awesome. Yes, this is one of my favorite stories. So over here is what we call the cat box. Reference to a litter box, maybe. But so on here, I drew all the cats I've ever owned or been associated with in my life. And in the middle, the most precious little thing is it's a piece of cat litter, clumping cat litter. So what happened was one day when I was emptying the litter box, we have two cats, or had two cats at the time. I noticed that the litter was really clumpy, like it was like a rock. So I decided to take cat litter, unscented, because the scented stuff is really harsh. But so I would take unscented cat litter and use water to kind of make a mold or a form of things. And then what I would do is I would paint over it with black acrylic paint, and then seal it with like even more sealant, like maybe like some crystal clear sealant, and then paint on it with acrylic paint as well. So this is what I used to call my kitty litter ingots when I was doing shows. I think Denise and Mike probably got that from me when I did a show in Georgia or Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta. So I would just have like a little, like 20 or 30 of those in a little box, and you could just buy a kitty litter ingot from me for like, I don't know, I probably sell that for $5 or something. So that's what's really fun. That's probably the least expensive thing in the show, but it's the most treasured, the cat box. But so just paint on cat litter. I still have some that I haven't finished, but I did a lot of busts of like in my travels, like Bulgaria, I was able to get a Lenin bust, and I've been to China a couple of times, and I was able to get a Mao bust. So I have these busts. So what I did is I went off that idea, and I would use cat litter to create my own like busts of human heads and paint them. I use like black, white, and red on those always as well. Like kind of that bull down there. That's another example. That's not cat litter, but that's, I think a toilet paper roll is the base of the body of it, and the head is, I think, like paper mache. And yeah, so I just kind of found objects and then just painting over them, and it was kind of my test into sculpture. I mean, I don't do it that much, but it is kind of fun. Just if I want to sit at a table for a long time and watch a movie, I can, just kind of crank out something like that.
You just pick up the wet clumps and put it together and let it
Yeah.
dry and just carve it out?
Yeah, just kind of mold it with my hand a bunch of times, and then eventually, you paint it. Once you get the acrylic, like lots of coats of acrylic on it, it'll stay. It becomes rock-like. Yeah. So, yep. Anybody else? Nope.
So before you head out, I don't know if I do like a flash photography headshot of you really quick, like.
Oh yeah, sure. It'd be great.
I'm gonna let everybody clear out.
Okay, yeah. I'm happy to take my picture, and great. So anyways, just thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you. No, but really it means a lot to me that you have any interest in what I have to say or what I'm doing. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions ever, just email me or, whatever. Very accessible, and always happy to answer questions or talk to students or classes or whatever, interviews. Yes, hi Gordon.
Colin, want to talk to him about December? Or Matt?
Oh.
Yes. Maybe Matt, you can, yeah, there you go. So in December, we're still choosing the date, but we're going to do a live interactive painting event with Matt, where we're going to have big canvas on the stage of Good Theater next door. We'll put Matt on a big scissor lift so he can go up and down. We'll have drinks, we'll have snacks, we'll have live audience. We'll live stream it to the world like we're doing now. And Matt will have his music queued up, which will pipe into the theater. But he's not going to paint what he wants to paint. He's going to paint what you want him to paint. So it's going to be one at a time. Walk up to the microphone, just like I'm doing right now. And you could say anything you want. You could say, my grandmother died during the pandemic and I'm really sad. Cue music, paint, next person, next person, next person. So it's going to be really, really special. We're probably going to have another couple of components paired with that event, such as a jazz performance here in the gallery where we are now, with some poetry reading, which of course relates to, Matt's inclusion of free jazz and painting John Coltrane and Louis Armstrong. And then Matt probably at that time will give a talk that is focused on his business model. He's proud of his business model. He's an entrepreneur. He and Dana Ellin both are. And so look for those. We'll be announcing those. We still have some time to dial in the details, but look for that early December. And for all of you, those watching out there, and for those of you who are here witnessing Gordon, the robot, this is something that you can go online and reserve. You can reserve your spot. And anybody anywhere in the world with a decent internet connection can drive Gordon around the galleries. You can zoom in on art. You can interact live with people like I'm doing now. And so Gordon has really expanded our access. Our first public visitor connected from Russia once we opened it up to the public. So it truly is special. Tomorrow, look for at 10 a.m. I'll be leading a session with Mansour Adaifi, who's a former Guantanamo Bay detainee, served 14 years there, never been convicted of a crime, let alone charged with a crime. And you can watch that live stream at ODU Arts, just like this stream is going out right now. And then in this very gallery, all spring semester, after the holidays, mid-January to mid-May, we will have a full exhibition of 101 pieces made by detainees inside Guantanamo Bay. So look out for that. There's going to be a lot of programming that goes along with it. And, just like Matt's show, it's going to be big, and people will want to use Gordon, to come visit it. So thanks so much, Matt, for this. It's been very educational, and we all really appreciate it. We had a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions online as well that we didn't get to, so you can follow up with those. And just reach out to Matt Sesow at sesow.com. Ask him to paint your portrait on something. And check out Dana Ellin's work as well. And with that, I'll bid everybody adieu. We have more food in the lobby, so grab some on your way out. And thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, please don't